Hello to this second video. We're going to illustrate how to use this visual beaning command in the SPSS. This visual beaning command is used when you want to transform a scale variable into a categorical one, and I have to say that this command is quite important and quite common, commonly used by analysts. So I would say please read very careful the introduction in the document to this command, okay, in order to clearly understand why do we need in real life, let's say, this kind of command and why it's so important. Okay, let's move to the example. That this is the aim of the video. In our example, we're going to use visual beaning to transform to be a new variable we're going to compute, that it will be total. Total will be the sum of local calls, long distance calls, and international calls for each customer. And as we will see in our example, we're going to bean this variable, because when we explore this new variable, we will find a kind of distribution that may suggest that a categorical version of the variable might be of interest. Okay, let's move to SPSS and see how to do yes, here we are. Okay, we're using telecom totals backup.sav data file. This is the file we have been using in previous examples. As I said before, first thing is to compute this new variable total. So this is something you already know from previous lessons. We select transform and then compute variable. Okay, we type a name for the new variable total in capital letters. For example, this is a personal tip. I use capital letters for my own variables in order to distinguish my variables from the original set of variables in a given data set. Okay, and total will be the sum of long distance calls. Okay, long distance call, international calls. Okay, take a look here. Instead of using and local calls, instead of using this arrow, it is the same if you simply double click here in the variable. Okay, that's right. Okay, and this is basically the new variable total calls. I simply click OK. That's right. Let's come back to the data view. Okay, so I have here my new variable total calls for each customer is the sum of international calls, local calls, and long distance call. That's okay. And imagine that I want to make a kind of descriptive analysis for this variable. So I select I go to analyze descriptive statistics and then descriptives. Remember that this option is the one we basically use to explore at the beginning scale variables. This option here, frequencies, is the one we use for categorical variables. Okay, so I asked for a descriptive analysis for my total variable. I click OK. I select the variable to analyze. Okay, and I simply click OK to see very basic descriptive statistics. Let's take a look. Okay, as you can see here, the mean is about 98, a maximum 209, minimum 8.19. Okay, but I made a mistake, because one of very basic advice would be use graphs before moving into numbers. So the mistake I made is that looking at a table, looking at descriptive, let's say, statistics numbers, is not a good idea until you see the distribution of the variable using a graph, because sometimes there are lots of features of the variables that you can only see using the graphs and not numbers and not this kind of descriptive statistics. So let's take a look at the graph and see if these values here make any sense or not. I'm going to use chart builder to to represent this scale variable, graph chart builder, that's okay. And given that I'm trying to explore that distribution of a scale variable, it doesn't make sense to use a kind of bar graph. The typical graph you use to explore at the very beginning a scale variable is an histogram, okay? I'm not going to use any kind of split variable, so what I need is this basic chart here, okay? And the variable I want to represent is total calls, so I drag this variable into the x-axis here, and that's all. I click. That's all. If I want to see a standard histogram, so I click OK, and what I see is something that I didn't expect. That is this kind of bump distribution here, with this lack of continuity. Instead of seeing a kind of true continuous variable, what I see is that here I have a multimodal distribution, suggesting that I may have three different groups of consumers with low numbers of calls. There's this middle group with this middle number of total calls, and this third group with higher values. I mean, in this new variable of total calls. So when I previously compute the average for the variable as a whole, this 98 is not really representing anything of interest, because I could say that I don't have a single group that I could describe using a single set of numbers. I need to understand here that I have three different groups that I need to describe separately. Okay, and that's what I find of interest, to create a categorical version of this total calls variable. Let's move into this visual binning procedure. Transform. I select transform visual binning. Okay. I select the variable I want to bin. In my case, this variable is total, and I click on continue. That's right. Once again, I can see here the histogram. Okay, it's exactly the same histogram we saw before. Okay. I need a name for my new categorical version of this scale variable, of this total variable. I will call this categorical version total cat. Okay, for example. And then basically what I have to do is to decide where to cut this range of values. This is basically what well, I'm going to use a kind of visual approach. I mean, the first cut point might be around, I don't know, maybe 43 is a good number. So I type 43 here, and the second cut point would be, I don't know, around 130 or the kind. It is not quite important to, I mean, to use a number or a similar, I mean, a given number or a similar one. Okay, because as you can see, the three groups are very well separated. So it's okay. The next step is to automatically create labels for these codes 1, 2, and 3 here in the new variable. This is something that SPSS can do automatically. Basically clicking here and make labels, and you can see those labels here. Okay, and that's all. I simply click OK. Okay. Well, this is a warning message that's saying something like, yeah, I'm going to create a new variable. That's what I want to do. So it's okay. Okay, I click OK. Let's take a look at my data. Okay. So I have this. Yeah, I have this categorical version of my scale variable here. Okay, with values 1, 2, 3 for low, middle, or higher values of total calls. This is the idea. Now I can use this variable or this variable depending on the analysis I want to run. For example, I'm going to repeat this descriptive analysis of these total calls variables, but considering that I have 3 very different groups instead of a single group of customers. So what I'm going to do is to repeat this descriptive analysis using this categorical variable as a factor, as a kind of a split variable if you want. Okay, I cannot use this descriptive option here because I need to introduce this total cat as a factor, as a split variable. So I have different options, but the standard one is to use this explore. Explore command is basically a descriptive statistical analysis, but with the option of using a factor. Okay, so I click on explore. My variable to analyze is total, mean the scale variable total. I want the average, standard deviation, maximum, minimum, those kinds of things for this variable, but taking into account that I have 3 different groups. The factor I'm going to use in this analysis will be total binned here. Okay, I'm going to X only for statistics, not for plots. Okay, so I click on OK, and what I see here is that now I have a table with descriptive statistics for my 3 different groups. Okay, low consumption, middle, and higher number of calls. As you can see, mean is 19.7, here is 83, and here is 185. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is to as I did in the Word document, is to change the appearance of this table. I'm going to double click here. Okay, and here I have this pivot table window that helps me to change the structure and the appearance of a given table. Okay, one interesting feature is this pivot trace, this pivoting trace option, which we can use if we want to change the structure of the table. For example, in my case, I'm going to move the groups. I mean, this instead of using the groups as rows, I'm going to use the groups as columns. So I simply drag this variable here. Okay, that's right. Okay, here I have it. Okay, I simply close the window, and maybe this structure is more interesting for my. So as you can see, I have exactly the same table, but now it's easier to compare the mean for the 3 groups. That's why I changed rows and columns using this interesting option of pivoting trace in the editor of this of the tables. Okay, let's take a look at the Word document and see if this is enough or not. Yeah, I think we have reviewed. Yeah, that's right.